What is up, everybody? Football is back. Shout out to my buddy Trey Kirby, the original. This is back. It is back. Fantasy is back. Oh, what a time to be alive. It is week one, and that means it is time for week one rankings, the least important ranking show of the year. But nevertheless, it is Bandit time. I am the Bandit. Here we go. Right now, if you are watching this on YouTube, you see on the screen that I have my rankings page pulled up on my website, which you can find at bandit.football/rankings. Pretty easy. Go there. Anytime throughout the season, you will see the latest weekly rankings. Soon enough, I will let you guys know when the Dynasty rankings are up there, but you will see PPR rankings on the screen for you when you go to that site. And that will include quarterback, which, doesn't matter if it's PPR, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and then flex rankings for those crucial flex decisions that you have to make. And just spoiler alert, usually the wide receivers are going to be a bit higher. So here we go. Week one. Let's see how I differ from the experts, the expert consensus rankings. So that's what I am using for my platform. Basically, I fill out my rankings on Fantasy Pros, and then it tells you where I stand, and then versus the consensus of the experts that are all filling out their rankings on Fantasy Pros too. So I think right now, as of now, there's about 70 to maybe upwards of 100. By the time you're watching this, listening to this, there will be well over 100 people with rankings uploaded on Fantasy Pros, and it'll give you a pretty good idea of where everybody stands as far as heading into the week. So for me at quarterback, where I differ from the expert consensus right now is at number 2. I have Trevor Lawrence as my number 2 quarterback, right behind Lamar Jackson. The expert consensus rankings, no surprise, have Patrick Mahomes at number 1 right now. And would anybody be surprised if he just dominates with a bunch of plumbers, as Patrick Daugherty would say? Travis Kelce may not play, but he's the best player in the world. He can get it done. So I still have him ranked at number 3. But the reason I have Trevor Lawrence at number 2 is I expect the Jags to go on a damn run this year. I have them as my Super Bowl favorite coming out of the AFC, winning the AFC and facing the Seahawks in the NFC. And I have Trevor Lawrence as my MVP for the 2023 season. Part of that is a big part of that is year 2 with Doug Peterson, the addition of Calvin Ridley, the addition of Tank Bigsby, a stronger but still not elite defense, and a very, very weak division that they should easily handle. Now, another good thing is they won the division last year, the AFC South, so they will face some tougher, AFC non-divisional opponents as well as non-conference opponents, the better teams. So those games should hopefully have higher point totals as we go on, but one show that I will be releasing this Friday, on Friday, September 8th, is going to be called Schedule Matters the First 6 Weeks, because now that we are shifting into redraft focus after, hot best ball summer and dynasty, all those crazy, Super Bowl ends, even week 17 ends, we're doing startups, we're getting so psyched for, how we're feeling about everybody heading into the next year, looking forward to the rookie draft. It's time to reset the old brains to redraft focus, and that means focusing on the first 6 weeks, the first 3, and then 4 through 6, seeing which teams have the best matchups, who's going to maybe start off slow, who's going to start off hot. And I like all 6 of the Jaguars matchups from a fantasy perspective. So that's why I have Trevor Lawrence here in week 1 going to Indianapolis. The Colts, as you know, are down super bad with Jim Irsay, doing his madman routine. Shane Steichen, rookie head coach. Anthony Richardson, rookie running back. Jonathan Taylor, probably not hurt, but on PUP because he wants to be traded. This could be a pretty brutal brutal game for the Colts, who do not have a very good defense, as I saw before I hopped on here to record the show. That Shaq Leonard, I believe he just cleared concussion protocol, or maybe he's still in it. The dude has been hurt for a while. He used to be one of the best defensive players in the game. But as he has kind of missed time and as the Colts have gone through some transition, that defense is not what it once was. That offensive line is not what it once was. I expect that the Jaguars will be able to feast. Unfortunately, they will be able to key in on Anthony Richardson, and probably it's going to be interesting to see if they're going to maybe not blitz, maybe run four, kind of mix things up, just, give him time, hopefully entice him to make mistakes. But I expect that the Jaguars are going to have a pretty easy time running away with this one, and I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a big part of that. I expect him to be the number 2 quarterback on the week, and ECR, expert consensus rankings, also think he's going to be a QB1 at number 7. But I just wanted to give some quick thoughts about the Jaguars. Moving a little bit down, though, I still have A. Rich at number 10. Anthony Richardson, the rookie quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. Expert consensus rankings currently have him at number 16. So I have him as a QB1, ECR, maybe a little bit nervous based on those points I just outlined. However, I believe that Shane Steichen, who just came over from Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts, I think he will have a nice run game installed, run game package for Anthony Richardson, designed runs. And if the Colts are able to, maybe they get a turnover, maybe they do put together a drive and string something along, or maybe Shane Steichen and the team has coached Anthony Richardson to kind of look for his first read, look for a second, and then go. I think he has a strong enough rushing baseline that he should be a top 10 quarterback this week and most weeks in the fantasy season. And now, bear with me, okay? Because I'm scrolling down. If you're seeing this on YouTube, here we go. Number 15, Sam Howell. And number 16, Baker Mayfield. I really had to stop myself from putting Baker Mayfield in the top 12 quarterbacks as a QB1 on the week, because I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to do it. He's playing at Minnesota in a dome. Baker Mayfield, he's motivated by sort of the scorched earth mindset, by the doubters, proving people wrong. Minnesota, yes, they were 13-4 last year, but their opponent scored more points than them. They had a negative point differential. And this year, Brian Flores comes in as the defensive coordinator, basically scrapping the other, their whole defensive set that they had last year. I don't think they're very much improved on defense. They might be a little bit better coached on that side of the ball. I mean, they certainly will be with Brian Flores, but still, Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans has been talking how he wants to get another 1,000 yards. He wants to break like Randy Moss's single season touchdown record. He wants to be one of the best to ever do it. And he's already a Hall of Famer, but like when you got Mike Evans saying those types of things, when you got Baker Mayfield and you know how he's played, remember when he was with the Rams last year, and he came out and everybody's like, well, Baker, hey, he looks pretty good. He's not going to look very good, but from a fantasy perspective, I think he will do enough against a pretty bad team that should be putting up points. So that's the other side of it. I do have Kirk Cousins ranked as my number 8 quarterback this week, just ahead of ECR, which is at 10. And I think Kirk Cousins with Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborn, and Jordan Addison, as well as TJ Hawkinson and, the running backs there, will be able to put up points, no problem against Tampa Bay. And Baker will be slinging it all over the field and finish, probably higher than number 16, definitely higher than 26 as the ECR currently has it. I would not be surprised at all if that ticks up as we get closer to Sunday. Again, these rankings, I will be updating them as news comes in, as injuries are being monitored throughout, as teams actually have to report their injuries. So those will probably come in tomorrow, Thursday-ish. Friday, and then of course Saturday, Sunday, I will make my final tweaks, and you will be checking your social media, checking all your fantasy outlets, and a lot of people will be providing you with those updates as well. But just be sure to check in with bandit.football/rankings for the latest before kickoff on Sunday morning. All right, I'm going to move over to the running backs now. And I'm going to scroll down here to my 13 through 16 range, which I have organized in the bottom of tier 3, right ahead of tier 4. So that's another thing I'm doing with the rankings, sort of grouping them in tiers as far as the guys that I think, will perform about the same on any given week. So at number 13, I have Cam Akers, 7 spots ahead of ECR. And then at number 14, I have Dameon Pierce, 8 spots ahead of ECR, which is at 22. So those two guys, I just think that the Los Angeles Rams and the Houston Texans are going to have to lean heavily on their running game. And Houston, maybe they have the better passing game right now because Cooper Kupp has been ruled out for the Rams. So Matthew Stafford, he's going to have to learn his wide receivers' names. He knows Ben Skoranek. We know that. Dollar store Cooper Kupp. I mean, that's kind of offensive to Cooper Kupp, to be honest. But Tyler Higbee, he'll probably have a good game. But other than that, it's Tutu Atwell. It's Puka Nacua. It's a bunch of guys. It's Kyron Williams is going to be the guy who's backing up Cam Akers, who Kyron Williams, not the most athletic of guys. I really think that Sean McVay, who has leaned on running backs in the past, especially when he first took over there in Los Angeles with Jared Goff and Todd Gurley, I think Cam Akers against the Seahawks up in Seattle is going to have himself a game. I have him at 13, but I could see him finishing as the number 1 running back on the week. Dameon Pierce is a guy that I've been a little lower on all off season, and I've got to throw up my hands and be like, all right, it's time to admit it. I think Dameon Pierce, he's going to be the clear lead back in this system. I was high on Devin Singletary as a Bills fan, but I think Dameon Pierce, he's going to get the majority of the touches in this backfield, and I think they're going to lean on him as CJ Stroud gets his sea legs under him, especially at Baltimore for the rookie's first game. I think they're really going to lean on Dameon Pierce, and he has a very good chance to finish as an RB1 or right on the border there at 14. Okay, so moving down, I do want to note quickly that I have Deion Jackson at number 21. Again, I said that Jonathan Taylor, you already know this, but Jonathan Taylor, he's on the PUP. He will not play. Deion Jackson is supposed to be the RB1 for the Colts heading into this weekend. So I have him at RB21 versus the Jags. ECR is at RB45. I have a feeling a lot of guys, a lot of rankers, a lot of gals just have not updated theirs yet. And that will be much closer to where I have him ranked in the 20s, right in the borderline of the teens 20s, sort of, back end RB2. But, there's a chance if they want to lean on the running game and kind of take the pressure off of their rookie quarterback, Anthony Richardson. And then this is the one that really kind of stings a little bit because I have Dalvin Cook ranked at number 29, 5 spots ahead of ECR, who has Dalvin Cook at 34 versus my Buffalo Bills on Monday night. And that means I have Breece Hall all the way down at number 49, 20 spots behind expert consensus rankings, who have him at 29. Now, Breece Hall, I love Breece Hall on the season long, everything. He's going to be incredible. I expect him to be, a league winner type, just an incredible back. I think he will take control of that backfield eventually. It's just right now, I'm not sure that against the Buffalo Bills in week 1 with Matt Milano hunting those running backs, sure, he's going to stuff Dalvin Cook a bunch. But it's week 1 in New York, in New Jersey, at the Meadowlands, Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, ESPN Monday Night Football. I think this is an Aaron Rodgers coming out party. I think this is a Garrett Wilson coming out party. And I think the Buffalo Bills are going to play spoiler as long as they can handle the New York Jets pass rush. I will actually be releasing my Buffalo Bills season preview on Monday. So keep an eye out for that. Keep your eyes on the YouTube, your ears on the podcast feed, whatever it is, however you want to get to know the Bandit a little bit better. But yeah, Breece Hall, maybe my mind will change over the next 24, 48 hours. But right now, I am sort of waiting and seeing. And to be honest, this could be a little bit of a Bills bias and me not wanting him to run all over my Buffalo Bills, who haven't been the best at stopping the run. So maybe I need to revisit this, just kind of working through this on the clock here. Let's move on to wide receivers. All right. So wide receivers at number 7 on the week, I have DK Metcalf, who is at number 13 in the expert consensus ranking. So I have him as a pretty clear wide receiver 1, and the expert consensus has him right on the borderline there. So the reason is DK was having a very strong spring training camp preseason with Geno Smith. The running backs over there are a little banged up. JSN is recovering from wrist surgery, a broken wrist. He will play, according to reports, before I hopped on here to record. However, I just think that DK Metcalf at home versus the Rams, the down bad Rams, the terrible, terrible, no good Rams. I think that this is one of those DK blow up games. That's just a kind of a gut call. I don't think they have the defense to stop him. I think they will be able to, Geno will be able to light them up, prove to everybody that, it wasn't a 1-year fluke and the Seahawks are for real and they are Super Bowl bound. And it starts with a beatdown of Sean McVay's Rams at home. That's what I'm counting on. So I think it's a DK blow up week, and I don't think it's an AJ Brown blow up week, who the expert consensus rankings have at 7 and I have at 19. So I'm still keeping him as a wide receiver 2. Obviously, if he's on your team, you're starting him. Nothing, no issues there. It's just he is playing against Bill Belichick in New England, and Belichick is going to try to take away your team's best player. And although he is talking to the media and big up in Jalen Hurts, saying, basically the media asked Bill Belichick if they were going to use Malik Cunningham as sort of a Jalen Hurts facsimile or, in practice to practice against. And he was saying Jalen Hurts is one of the best players in the league's 2 or 3 best players in the league. You can't, mimic that in practice. And this is kind of par for the course. This is what Belichick does. He likes to gas up his opponents. And of course, Jalen Hurts is one of the best players in the league. But I really think you can try to minimize Jalen Hurts, but you can actually try to really take away a wide receiver specifically. A lot harder to take away that sort of freelancing, creativity, scramble mode that Jalen Hurts can do on any given play, whereas you can sort of do the 2 high shell coverage, cloud coverage, double. AJ Brown's probably going to get his. It's just, you know how it goes with AJ Brown in fantasy. He's going to have his 6.8 point weeks, and then he's going to have a 35 point week. That's just kind of how it goes. I think this week is probably one of those 10 point or below weeks. But if he blows it up, he blows it up. He's AJ Brown. You're playing him. That's just what you sign up for when you're drafting him. He's awesome. It's just I don't feel as confident about him this week. Who I do feel confident about, though, is George Pickens, who is that dude. I have him at number 25, so right on the borderline of wide receiver 2, 3, 10 spots ahead of expert consensus ranks. And I do think that George Pickens is going to be the number 1 receiver for Kenny Pickett this year. I know Deontay Johnson has been a target hog in the past. He's been very good, but he definitely benefited from the rapid fire, short, get rid of the ball, I don't want to get hit, Ben Roethlisberger offense, whereas Kenny Pickett, younger, more mobile, can extend plays, is going to look for George Pickens, who is an absolute beast, and he's going to make some sick catches. I know it's against San Francisco. I would have him higher if it wasn't against San Francisco, but they are maybe one or two, one of the best defenses in the league. So home game at Pittsburgh, I do think George Pickens will still get it done, and he's in your lineup. Then there is one guy that is way out. He's ranked as a bench guy on expert consensus rankings, but I had to get him into my tier 4 here, right behind Gabe Davis. KJ Osborn at number 34 versus the aforementioned Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I have him ranked at number 34. Expert consensus rankings have him at 61. So I'm 27 spots ahead. The reason for this is KJ Osborn ran the 10th most routes last year because the Minnesota Vikings run out of 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back, pretty much more than anybody. Because they have Justin Jefferson. And now they have TJ Hawkinson signed to a big old contract and rookie first rounder Jordan Addison. But KJ Osborn is starting the year as the number 2 on the depth chart. That is sort of a seniority thing, I think, kind of like you got to earn it, Rook. I think these guys are going to play all over the formation. I think KJ Osborn is going to play out of the slot, but Addison and Justin Jefferson will mix in there as well. It's just KJ Osborn versus Tampa Bay. I really think he's got to be in your lineup. If you start 3 wide receivers, you should feel confident playing them as your wide receiver 3. If you have 2 wide receivers in a flex and, you're not really liking your other flex options, I would put KJ Osborn in there. It's week 1. I mean, his projections not going to be all that sexy on any site, but this is one of those things. It's kind of a process. It's kind of a gut thing. It's sort of KJ Osborn's one of those guys we thought was going to really take the leap last year. He did run a ton of the routes. Adam Thielen is now gone. So it's just KJ Osborn. Can he do enough? And with that flex position, are you going to be happy if somebody gets you 10 points? If you are, KJ Osborn's probably a good bet for you. If you're looking, if your matchup, if you need to shoot for the stars, maybe more of a Gabe Davis, somebody like that. Maybe a Brandon Ayuk, somebody like that is better for your flex than a KJ Osborn. But if you're in a matchup and you think you're going to be pretty close and you want to lock in some points, I do think that KJ Osborn has a pretty strong floor. And to be honest, I kind of, the way I'm looking to build my teams out of the draft and in redraft, everybody's got a pretty good team right away. So I would say that in week 1, KJ Osborn for most teams is a good flex bet. All right, tight ends. Moving on. As you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube, tier 1, Travis Kelce. Tier 2, Mark Andrews. Tier 3, 5 more guys. But if they're playing, they are 1 and 2 every week. It's just that easy. I mean, Kelce is the man. He's rated as number 10 in ECR because he's got a bone bruise. I heard a clip earlier today of Jason Kelce on a radio show, Philly radio show, basically saying that he passed along that it was a bone bruise. He thinks that, as he calls him, Trav, he will be all right. As I call him, El Travador. He will be all right. I think he will play. I don't think he's going to miss opening week. If he does, obviously I will drop him out of the rankings. And then it would be Mark Andrews as number 1. Mark Andrews, though, I still have number 2 because I like this Todd Monken passing offense. I mean, he'd be number 2 even with Greg Roman. And, I know they have Zay Flowers now. I know they have Rashad Bateman and Odell Beckham, and they've got Isaiah Likely and J.K. Dobbins, and they have a lot more talent, it would seem, in the receiving game than the Chiefs do currently when you compare the two. But Mark Andrews is just incredible. He's like a number 1 wide receiver. He will get open. If he's playing, he's number 2 until he can surpass Kelce. Number 3, I have Dallas Goedert. So I didn't talk about Devonta Smith, but, I do think that Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert are poised to have the games this week versus A.J. Brown, as, again, Bill Belichick kind of tries to take away an opponent's best player. Then I have Darren Waller, TJ Hawkinson, Tyler Higbee, who I mentioned, gets a big boost just because of Cooper Kupp being out. And then at number 9 and number 10 and number 13 is where I differ right now from the expert consensus ranks. And these, of course, could change. Maybe not everybody's on the ranks, messing with them right now. But at number 9, I have Jake Ferguson, Dallas tight end at New York Giants, Sunday Night Football. Expert consensus ranks currently have him at number 22. I have a number 9 just because of Dak Prescott. I think it might be a Dak Prescott thing as far as targeting the tight end, looking for the tight end versus a Kellen Moore thing. So I'm betting on Jake Ferguson being the dude versus, Gerald Everett over with Kellen Moore in Los Angeles, or Dalton Schultz now in Houston with CJ Stroud. I think it's Jake Ferguson, and I'm willing to make that bet at tight end in week 1, sight unseen, just going with the gut. If you didn't get Kelsey, if you didn't get Mark Andrews, if you don't have one of those 3 to 5 other guys that could be, a solid top 6 tight end any given week, I'd be taking a shot on Jake Ferguson, especially if, Kelsey or Mark Andrews misses and you have those guys. Then at number 10, I have Noah Fant. This is, Noah Fant on the Seahawks. They're playing the Rams, as I mentioned. ECR has him at 24. Noah Fant, former first-round pick. I expect the Seattle Seahawks to run a lot more 11 personnel this year, as indicated by, their draft pick of JSN, who expects to work out of the slot a lot and probably will work across the formation. But with DK, Tyler Lockett, JSN, and then one tight end, I expect that tight end to be Noah Fant on passing plays. And maybe they work in Will Dissly and stuff if they're, if they have Ken Walker out there, if they want to try to hit explosive run plays, try to mix things up a bit. But I do think that Noah Fant gets a bump up this week with JSN recovering from the wrist surgery. Maybe not every week Noah Fant is going to be a viable play. I mean, most often I would like any of the other receivers or running backs over Noah Fant. But this week, if you're hurting, if you drafted Kelsey in the first round overall, pick up Noah Fant. If Jake Ferguson's not out there, throw him in your lineup. Hope he gets a couple of catches, 30, 40 yards, whatever. Gets you 6, 7, 8 points. Better than the 0 from Kelsey. That's what I'm saying. All right. That's once you get into the 10s, 11, 12s of tight ends, it's a dice roll between 10 points or 0 points. That's kind of how I look at it, which is why Hunter Henry, I'm betting on a touchdown against the Eagles. I have him at number 13. ECR has him at 23, so 10 spots ahead. I have him up there based on preseason and camp reports that he was Mac Jones' favorite target. I think he's going to be used pretty heavily against the Eagles here in week 1 at home, and he's a good red zone option. So sometimes that's what you're looking for just as a tight end fill-in, and they do have Mike Gesicki there, but he can't block for shit. So I'm not counting on Mike Gesicki to do much of anything here at the beginning part of the year unless he learns how to block, and I don't think that's going to happen. So maybe he'll be a big slot at some point. But Hunter Henry, he'll be out there. He'll be out there on run plays. He'll be blocking. He'll get open on play action. I like him as a fill-in. So those are what I'm going to settle on as far as just this quick little week 1 30-minute podcast here, 30-minute show. You can again go to bandit.football to see the rankings, bandit.football/rankings. And I will be back on Friday with a little bit of a breakdown I'm calling Schedule Matters, which will look at weeks 1 through 6 and the matchups you're going to want to try to exploit or take advantage of, either playing the streaming game or looking for possible trade targets that might be a little bit depressed in value because they have a tougher weeks 1 through 3, but then things start to really kind of open up for them in 4 through 6. So guys like my unranked tight end in week 1, Dalton Kincaid, he might be a good trade option here, but I'll get into that later, either on Friday in the weeks 1 through 6, or on Monday in my Buffalo Bills preview. Other than that, good luck. Football is back. Let's go, Bills.